Electricity in the ancient world? The idea that generating electricity is a relatively recent invention is taken for granted almost as much as our modern society's total dependence on it. While lightning, magnetism, and static electricity were known in the ancient world, they were not utilized in any way, nor was it understood that the phenomena were related. They were curiosities, interesting anomalies to ponder over, sometimes destructive but not useful. Yet we have evidence that in the 1st century, AD, one ancient culture not only recognized electricity, but harnessed it and learned how to generate it. Yet this was not done by the Romans, Greeks, or Chinese, generally considered the most technologically advanced of ancient civilizations. Instead, this was accomplished in the Parthian Empire, not especially noted for its engineering or technical prowess. In 1936, archaeologists working for the Iraqi Antiquities Authority were excavating the Parthian site of Kujut Rabu near Baghdad when they uncovered a strange pot. The jar was 5.5 inches, 14 centimeters tall. Inside the mouth of the jar, a tube of copper was held in place with an asphalt seal, and inside the tube of copper there was an iron rod also held in place by asphalt. Wilhelm Koenig, an Austrian who served as director of the Baghdad Museum at the time, recognized that the jar and its odd metal attachments were in a configuration that the whole thing could have functioned as a wet cell battery. All the battery needed was the addition of an acid. Numerous acids would have been available at the time, including citrus juice and vinegar. The artifact was quickly dubbed the Baghdad battery. Experiments have been conducted with replicas of the jar using various acids. Salt water corroded the iron so that voltage dropped to minimal levels in 60 seconds. Copper sulfate produced 0.45 volts for several hours, until copper plated the iron insert. However, a mixture of acetic acid, distilled vinegar, and grapefruit juice produced 0.49 volts for several days. More batteries have been found from the Sassanid period. These batteries were stuffed with papyrus and found in conjunction with magical amulets. But what use would the Parthians and Sassanids have had for a low-voltage electrical current? No electrical devices, motors, lights, or anything similar have been found anywhere in the ancient world. Some people claim that evidence of ancient high technology has been hidden or misidentified. For example, they argue that this rock relief from the Dendara temple complex in late Ptolemaic Egypt shows evidence for ancient light bulbs that could have been powered by the Baghdad batteries. Based on this drawing, engineers have constructed actual working light bulbs that resemble this relief. However, this whole thing unravels when you look closer at the light bulb filaments. The filament appears to have scales, and a head, and eyes and a mouth, and a tapering tail. In fact, it's not a wire or an electrical arc at all. It's a snake. And the light socket is in fact a lotus flower. Snakes and lotus flowers had religious symbolism for the Egyptians, which would explain why such a scene was carved on the wall of a temple. In addition, although the Baghdad batteries could have produced electricity, 0.5 volts moving at several milliamps is several hundred times too weak to power a light bulb. There are other claims of ancient electrical technology, most of which are the product of people who have the deadly combination of too much time on their hands and access to the internet. Claims exist that the pyramids were giant power plants which provided electricity to run electrical stone-cutting tools. Others say that the Great Pyramid was in fact a giant chemical laser which destroyed a planet of our solar system Death Star style to create the asteroid belt. That's before we even get to the idea that the ancient Egyptians launched satellites to beam power wirelessly to their tools, or alleged interplanetary war. And the aliens. Don't forget the aliens. Once all the silliness is cleared away, we still have a dozen or so clay jars from Mesopotamia that look and function like batteries. What could they possibly have been used for? The lack of any apparent use for electric current in ancient Parthia has led some scholars to question if the artifacts were actually used as batteries. Instead, it has been suggested that they were used to store sacred scrolls in such a way as to keep moisture from damaging the papyrus. Papyrus has been found inside several of the batteries. And just because something can be used to produce electricity doesn't mean that it was. In addition, the seal would prevent the acid from being easily topped off, making the battery disposable, unless of course the seal was broken and resealed. Yet anyone can build replicas of the battery, add acid, and get electrical current. This is different from silly reconstructions of the Dendera lights. An exact reconstruction of the Dendera relief would give you a snake touching its tail to a lotus flower, which I can guarantee will not give off light. It seems too great a coincidence that a scroll holder would have an iron rod down the center of a storage jar, for no apparent purpose, which just happened to create an electric current. Since neither the Parthians nor anyone else in the ancient world developed a working theory of electricity, the discovery of the batteries was likely an accident. Paul Keyser proposed that the connection was first made by someone dipping an iron spoon into a bronze bowl of vinegar. If the Parthians did not mean to create a battery when they made the Baghdad battery, they made one by accident. Wilhelm Koenig, who originally published the batteries, argued that they were used for electroplating objects with gold or silver. Keyser challenged this. First, he doubted that the Parthians had sufficient knowledge of molecular physics to imagine the process of electroplating. Second, he argued that the Parthians had no way of dissolving gold or silver into a solution that could be used for electroplating. Indeed, solutions that could dissolve gold or silver were not available until 1300 AD. Third, he did not believe that the batteries produced enough current for electroplating. It has been suggested that the batteries could have been connected in a series to provide more voltage, but no wires have been found. What's more, it's not clear if anyone in the ancient world understood electricity enough to figure out how to wire batteries in sequence. In addition, no electroplated objects have been found in the ancient world. Keyser's alternative proposal is that the batteries were used for medical therapy. He points to the Greeks and Romans, where a treatment for pain involved using a common electric ray, torpedo, to deliver electric shocks to patients. Scribonius Largus, the Roman Emperor Claudius's personal physician, left a medical text which includes instructions on how to treat gout. For any sort of podagra, foot gout, when the pain comes on, it is good for one to put a living black torpedo fish under his feet while standing on a beach, not dry but one on which the sea washes, until he feels that his whole foot and shank are numb just up to the knees. This will both relieve the current pain and alleviate future occurrences. Closer to home, the Egyptians are known to have used the electric Nile catfish to treat headaches and nerve pain. Rays and catfish continued to be used for this purpose until the rediscovery of the generation of electricity in the late 1600s. There is even a medical word for the act of using electric fish to treat pain, ichthyoelectroanalgesia. Keyser suggests that the batteries were used to apply a mild electrical current for similar treatment of pain. One possible issue is the voltage. The common electric ray can produce 200 volts at about 30 amps. This is orders of magnitude greater than the Baghdad battery's 0.5 volts. However, Keyser then consulted contemporary medical literature on using electrical current to treat pain and speed the healing of wounds. The currents used in these cases were around 0.8 to 1.4 volts and 0.2 to 1.0 milliamps. This is roughly the same range as the current produced by the Baghdad battery. What's more, the batteries were found with ritual objects, and ritual objects and amulets were common tools of medicine in the ancient world. Keyser argues this means there are too many coincidences to be pure chance. Rather, this indicates that the batteries were likely used for medical treatment. Paul Craddock from the British Museum has suggested that the batteries were hooked up to statues in Mesopotamian temples to give an electric shock to anyone who touched the gods. Craddock has even suggested that they were used to modify behavior by questioning temple-goers and shocking those who gave wrong answers, giving the appearance of divine disapproval. The Parthians were tolerant of local religions, and old Mesopotamian polytheistic gods such as Marduk continued to be venerated in Mesopotamia. By the Sassanid period, however, Zoroastrianism was the official state religion, and other monotheistic religions such as Christianity, Judaism, and Manichaeism were alternately tolerated and persecuted. At this time, Mesopotamian polytheism, with its associated idols, was fast dying out. Yet batteries have still been found in Sassanid Seleucia, unless these were in fact storage cases for scrolls. A fourth option not commonly considered is that the batteries were simply a curiosity with no practical use. The batteries were neither expensive nor complex to manufacture. Like a sort of ancient shock pen, they could have served as a novelty that gave a mild shock or tingling sensation. In a similar case, the Greeks invented a novelty device called the aeolipile. This was a small brass ball with two nozzles which was suspended on a stand and filled with water. Lighting a fire under the ball caused the water to boil and steam to shoot out of the nozzles, spinning the ball. Despite the fact that this was a miniature steam engine, this concept was not put to practical use until the Industrial Revolution. The aeolipile remained a desktop curiosity in the ancient world. It is entirely possible that the Baghdad battery had a similar purpose. This would also explain why the technology of the battery did not spread very far. There was no reason for it to spread, as it didn't really do anything to justify paying a lot of money for it. In conclusion, it seems that the medical and novelty theories come out slightly ahead. They are more plausible than the religious, non-electric, and electroplating theories. A total of 49 Baghdad battery replicas were featured in a 2010 display by Swedish artist Christian Andersson. The display of ancient electrical cells is to be understood as undermining preconcepts of development and progress by showing ancient batteries that existed over 1,700 years before Alexandro Volta invented the modern chemical battery in 1800. And that, in short, is exactly why so many people have found the Baghdad battery to be such a fascinating artifact.